Hello, Internet! Welcome to episode 369. Nice. Of the Assorted Calibers podcast. The Second Amendment podcast is a little bit for everyone. I'm Weer'd, and with me tonight, she's all right, but she's our hostess, Erin Paulette. How you doing, Erin?
Well, thank you for that. I'm doing much better than I did last week.
Thank God.
I think, yeah, that's true. So, I think I've finally gotten adjusted to the time change, so that's one less thing I'm struggling against. So for people who want to know more about Tilly, I want you to know that I've given her a middle name, and that name is Underfoot, because she constantly is underfoot. And then I realized Tilly Underfoot sounds like a halfling rogue. And she really is a rogue because she will steal, like, my shoes, my socks, my slippers, and not to chew on them, but just to run off with them. If she were a human girl, she would be giggling the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have to go find them. And she, when we play, she likes to sneak up on me and nip me. Not enough to draw blood. Sometimes it makes me yelp, though. And so that's a little sneak attack.
Backstab.
So, yes. And so, yeah, she is absolutely a little halfling rogue. And also, I'm convinced she has ADHD because she's got all that puppy energy and she constantly wants to play. And I have to stop what I'm doing at least once an hour and give her some sort of attention, like throw the ball or chase her or wrestle with her or something like that. And in fact, in order to get her to settle down for bed, I have to play with her until she's tuckered out. Mm-hmm. And when we go for a walk, she's constantly zigzagging from one side of the street to the other. Just, ooh, what's this? Ooh, what's that? And So that's both hyperactivity and the attention deficit. Although I will say, because I've had a dog who's part beagle before, when the nose turns on, the ears and pretty much everything else turns off. And all they want to do is sniff. And, you're hauling on that leash to get them to go. And it's just, no, I'm not done sniffing. And so that's very much like hyperfocus. So, yeah, I have a little halfling rogue with ADHD, and she's adorable.
I see that dog behavior all the time, and it amuses the hell out of me as the dog, comes up to a particularly interesting signpost, and they're just intently sniffing at it, and the owner is walking and tugging on the leash, and like, come on, let's get going. And it's all like, there's some good sniffing to do here. I mean, you got to imagine, it's like reading the newspaper for them. There's so much to glean.
Mm-hmm.
And I will also add that the absolute like standard issue ADHD trope of squirrel is deemed from the dog Doug from the movie Up.
Yeah. So
it's one of those like, I think they're supposed to all have ADHD.
I mean, she's literally done that to literal squirrels. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I really don't have that much to add. It's mostly just been, I've got a dog. She's a handful. I have to learn how to speak her language as much as she needs to learn to speak ours.
Yep. I wish I could speak the language of this mouse that's in my kitchen. It's probably mice. Like, I guarantee there's a family. But like, you can see my kitchen is slowly descending into madness. Because there was just like 3 live traps, just the standard, like, there's someone saw a mouse or something like that, pull out the live traps, put them in a couple of key locations in the kitchen. And sometimes it's usually 24, sometimes it's 48 hours. Mouse is caught. We'll take it somewhere. We'll release it. And like now it's going to like, I bought glue traps. I don't like the idea of glue traps. I think they are cruel, but we are at war, Erin Paulette. And so have glue traps. I set them out in the kitchen. I inform my family, there are glue traps in the kitchen. Be very, very careful. My family was not very, very careful, so I have caught 0 mice, but I have caught a wife and a daughter in the glue traps. So so they work. And I'm moving them all over into weird locations to just see if anything can catch them. And
I mean, technically, anywhere in your house is a weird location.
Yes, that is true. Casa de Weer'd. And also, so Matt and Heinrich from Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns have been tormenting me on the fact that Matt has posted the trailer to the movie Mouse Hunt. Yeah, and really, I was listening, hardy har har, and then like the other day, I'm looking at my kitchen, I'm like, you know what? They're not half wrong. And Heinrich has pointed out that he just has a bucket in his basement, and the mice will just climb into it, and they can't get out, and that's his mouse trap. And so I took my largest, smoothest bucket, and I've put a little bit of cornmeal, a little bit of sugar, and a little bit of breadcrumbs in it to hopefully be a little bit more enticing. Because that's the one thing that I've figured out is that these mice, they're not eating any like they're not chewing into like the food that's in various cupboards that they could easily get into. They are eating crumbs off of the counters and off the floor. And so hopefully the breadcrumbs will be something to entice them, but it's been out for like 2 days now and haven't caught any. So
I mean, they're providing cleanup services. Why do you want to kill them?
Because they're replacing them with poop.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's really crumb conversion services.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so we're going to go through that. I'm tempted. We'll see how I feel after we finish recording. If I want to start arming up the snap traps and just putting them in various locations as just aerial denial weapons. There's going to be tripwires and perimeters sometime soon, Aaron.
When do you deploy the smart guns?
I mean, the question is, when do I just burn the house down and go, I may be homeless, but I'm victorious as well? Peace was never an option.
Like the May of the little girl in the burning house, and it's like, I got the spider.
Yes. Dad, I've closed the door to the bathroom. There's a huge spider outside. Your dad is dead. Love the spider. I thought it was just that's peak dad joke energy. All right. Well, I think it's time to start talking about some news. And this first one, this story was out. It skipped over. I skipped over it. I forgot about it. I heard about it and just didn't end up putting it in the show notes before the show started.
This is from February.
Oh, is it that far back? Yes, it is. So let's see if there's any updates.
So what I did was I found the article. I got the name of the House bill, HB 104, and I did a Google for that, and it took me to the Utah State Legislature.
I gotcha.
And
we keep. I've kind of lost track of where we are on the if what I'm editing and what I'm keeping, but we can go through it. But yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
I don't know either.
Here, let's just start over.
So yeah, I don't know if this passed or not, but it says the effective date is July 1st of this year. So, I should click on status.
But what we were talking about is there is a law that is coming up through in Utah, HB 104, and it is a law that is for teaching firearms safety in the K through 12 schools, and that's something that I've been a huge proponent of, and it's my understanding it's not anything super duper hardcore. It'll mostly be firearms safety videos and things like that, but just educating kids on firearms. And I think that it's something that should be in every school because, I mean, number one, gun safety is great. And we can't necessarily guarantee that if the kids have got some gun safety from their parents, it's particularly good or effective.
So I looked it up, and it says that back at the end of March, the governor signed it.
Oh, good.
So, I mean, it doesn't say enacted into law, but one would assume that if the governor signs it, that it is been enacted into law, and since the effective date was back in July, it should be in effect.
Well, that's awesome. I'm kind of bummed that we haven't heard more about this, but yeah. So it's one of those. Even if you are in a gun-free home and all that, this is supplemental teachings because maybe your parents aren't the greatest teachers. And or there's something to be gone through, or again, someone grows up in a house without guns. That doesn't mean that every house you're going to be into is going to not have guns. So better to make the child gun safe than to try to make everything around them locked up.
Weird. What's the phrase that I usually say in situations like this?
Oh, that gun control is abstinence-only education?
Yes. Well, more specifically, I say that we don't believe in abstinence-only sex education. Why then do we insist upon abstinence-only firearm education? Mm-hmm. And so, good on Utah for not doing abstinence-only firearm education.
Yeah, this is great. I look forward to hearing more about this. I'm kind of weirded out that we haven't heard more about this, but yeah, going forward, this is great. Now on to some crappier news. We have, of course, it was the day after we recorded last week, so it happened now 2 weeks as far as you listening at home, was Veterans Day, and on Veterans Day, gun control group Giffords pushes more gun control aimed at veterans, and this is, I would say, ghoulish to say the least. What would you say, Aaron?
I don't know if I would say ghoulish, but I know where you're coming from, and so the short version here is that Giffords is climbing upon the veteran suicide soapbox and using that to further their gun prohibitionist agenda. And so there's a quote here saying, and I have to use my disdain voice, since 2006, veterans have died by suicide nearly 20 times more often than soldiers have been killed at war. And by the way, that is a tragedy. I believe they said something like it's 22 a day, and we need to stop that. I agree with that. I don't want people to think I'm being sarcastic about that, but it's part of the quote. Continuing, veterans deserve more than empty words. They deserve leaders who work to protect them. But many in Congress are stopping the VA from flagging when a veteran is at heightened risk of harming themselves or others, and therefore shouldn't have access to a gun. Now, on the face of it, that seems reasonable, but from this article, what's going on is that veterans who go to the VA are being reported. And they aren't specifically going to the VA for mental help. There's actually something here about how veterans who get financial aid, they say using a fiduciary to handle their finances, face the threat of being reported by the VA and therefore prohibited from gun purchases. And the VA is making this very shaky claim that if you need help in balancing your finances, you have a mental health problem and your Second Amendment rights should be revoked. And it should come as no surprise to folks that veterans who come back from a war zone where people were actively trying to kill them very much prize their gun rights. And it's further quoted that trying to take away the guns of these veterans it only serves to increase their feeling of defenselessness, because they quote someone who was in a wheelchair and he is afraid of being victimized. And now he lives with the added anxiety every time he goes to the doctor that his rights are going to be taken away from him. And so, ironically, by trying to help, Giffords is making this worse, because these veterans who have come to depend upon firearms in their professional life as soldiers, one of their biggest issues now is because they might lose their life in battle to other people who have guns, but the soldiers have been disarmed. The veterans have been disarmed. And so, I mean, at this point, the best I can do is just try and tell myself that Giffords is trying to do something they feel is good because they don't want people to commit suicide, and that is laudable, but they're doing it for the wrong reason. Or I should say the reason is good, but the method is flawed. And sadly, they're probably making the problem worse.
I mean, I don't like Giffords at all, and I'm going to be a little less charitable in that gun control groups constantly are talking about suicides. They're using suicide numbers. Obviously, like, you know, roughly 60% of the gun deaths that happen in the United States are due to suicides. But when you look at how gun control laws are written and how they're working, they are definitely set up more to target violent crime and street crime and spree killers and that sort of stuff. And so the suicide numbers are just paddings. And I think that's the same thing with this here. It's one of those, it's like red flag laws. Red flag laws is just gun control wearing a white lab coat. This is just, we're going to help the veterans. How do we help the veterans? We just figure out new ways to make them prohibited people. Like it's the same thing of why I point out why the quote unquote Charleston loophole is an absolutely dangerous law. And that, of course, so for those who need a refresher, that's the one that says that if you get a hold on your NICS check, right now they have 7 days to figure out any ambiguity on your NICS check. And if they do, if there's an approval or there's a proceed or a deny, then that it's the same as if it had come up at the very beginning and whenever it comes up. But also, if no response comes from the FBI on that hold, well, then it's a default proceed and you can just get your gun. And they want to get rid of that because the Charleston shooter had a hold on his on his gun. I'm not even sure if he legally could have had it or not, but I think it was like 2 weeks before he ended up coming back and collecting it, and he collected it on a default proceed. And it really proved that nobody is at the switch. Just it went to somebody's desk and that desk was empty. And so, the mailbox you have called is full. And so nobody does anything. And so in theory, a sinister government could make it so that any accusation, ambiguity, whatever on your background check could get you on a hold. And without that default proceed, it's as good as you're convicted of a felony.
So your Second Amendment right delayed is a right denied.
Or just the anti-gun groups, one solution they've got is make everyone a prohibited person. Then they don't have to worry about what type of guns or bans or anything like that. Just no one can have them.
Well, except for their armed security, of course.
Of course. Yep, their armed security and their police forces. And here is another story of what I consider an extremely dangerous trend. And we actually just talked about this last week on the Wall Street Journal. Had run a story essentially going on the the false premise that stand your ground laws are just allow legalize murder. And the reason why I say that's dangerous is because people may end up listening to that and may end up actually, killing people and thinking they can get away with it. And there are several instances of this, and they're doubling down and they're doing more of this. Yes, but essentially, one of the things that the Wall Street Journal is criticizing is the number of justifiable homicides, and saying that like it's a bad thing. And I mean, it's not great because it's somebody getting killed, but it's one of those like it's a justifiable homicide. Like, are you implying that the police aren't doing a good job and the justice system can't be can't be trusted? Because that's not a great place where you want to go, and that's a pretty steep accusation. And then I think they're also talking about they're talking about an instance where they're talking about a person that was shot, and their parents are lamenting on it. And it turned out it was a defensive shooting within a drug deal, which, in itself, it's one of those bad guys shooting bad guys, but even bad guys have the right to defend themselves. It's just a dangerous trend of just vilifying self-defense and coloring stand your ground laws as anything but what they are, is just you have the right to defend yourself, and you don't have to prove that that you had done everything you could to avoid this defensive shooting once your life was threatened. The time to avoid things is before there's any threat, and it's one of those I've definitely done there's a vagrant person that looks a little like they might be a little in some mental distress. I'm going to give them a little bit of a wide berth. Oh, there's a bunch of teenagers that look like they might be up to no good. I'm going to cross the street and all that. Am I being paranoid? Are they dangerous? I don't know. Not sticking around for it. But the moment I know that something is dangerous, that's not the time to be retreating or anything like that. That's the time to be defending yourself.
I have nothing to add. I'm just looking at how somebody has already modified a Glock V series to accept the switch.
Yeah, we'll just talk about it briefly. I'm not gonna bother linking it because this person was saying this. It's evidently a secondary person who found something on Reddit, but it's probably legit. According to this this tweet that was found by friend of the show, Wellowent, there's someone has managed to modify either a Glock switch or the slide of a Glock Model V, Glock Model 5, I don't know what you call it, and made it so it accepted it, which of course everyone predicted.
Yeah, I mean, when we talked about it last week, I said something like set the timer and find out how long it is before someone either modifies the Glock to accept the switch or someone comes up with a new switch that'll work on the V series.
Mm-hmm. And then I added the joke of and then somebody else can buy $100 worth of stuff at Home Depot and see if they can make a Sten gun.
Mm-hmm.
Though I'm trying to remember who set it back, but I was talking about that, and someone was just like, "Oh no, the Glock switch because you need to get a magazine for the Sten gun. The Glock comes with a magazine." Well, that's a fair point.
All right, so Weer'd, this next segment, topic, article, it's from Giffords, and I don't have a lot of tolerance for their BS right now. I can't force myself to read it, but you love reading this sort of thing because that's what your audio fisks are about. So, you know what? I'm just going to sit here and get comfortable while you tell everyone about this article and then tear it apart because, I mean, it's Giffords. Whatever they're saying is going to be drivel.
Yes. So this is essentially a presentation, I guess you could say, a little page on it says the gun lobby wants to pass a national concealed carry mandate. It's really a bad idea. I mean, even the title is loaded because they're saying a concealed carry mandate. It's like it's very similar to when we want to make it so that teachers and schools have the option to have armed staff, and maybe even parents dropping off their children don't have to disarm themselves before entering school grounds. It's suddenly giving teachers guns, like we're just going to hand the guns to the teachers. And this is a mandate for concealed carry. So yeah, that it's in itself is super duper loaded. I actually haven't heard that there's a particular it's about concealed carry reciprocity, and I don't think there's a particular reciprocity bill that's going up right now, but there's always one on the back burner. But let's see. Yeah, but this one is essentially how does this mandate work? Usually you want to carry a concealed gun in public. You have to follow the rules in your state that outlaw who is allowed to do so. And historically, almost every state prohibits or strictly limited carrying of concealed loaded weapons in public places. More guns in public means an increased risk of gun violence. We'll get to that in a little bit. Yeah. And so more recently, some states have allowed law enforcement to issue permits to people who passed a background check and received firearms safety training or demonstrated particular need to carry. Yeah, that's but the gun lobby CEOs weren't satisfied with training gun owners being able to carry concealed firearms. They wanted to make it easier, and 29 states have eliminated protections that would carry. They're talking about constitutional carry. They're all upset about it, and actually, it'd be interested to see the law because a lot of states actually don't directly address constitutional carry for how this works out. So we'll see if it makes it so that your driver's license for constitutional carry state is your reciprocity. Either way, it makes them mad. Let's see. But this leads on to this lovely scenario. This means that if you want to be able to carry a concealed gun in California, a state where you need a permit to do so, you could just go over to its neighbor, Arizona, where you don't need a permit to do so, to obtain a gun with no license needed, and then you're welcome to conceal your gun and carry it back in public places like California, Nevada, or Colorado, or any other state, even if you wouldn't be able to legally obtain a license in any of these states. And I'm pretty sure Nevada and Colorado, technically every state is now shall issue, but California has been causing a lot of problems. Actually, I'm following Costas Moros on Twitter. He is having his permit is expiring very, very soon, and his renewal doesn't seem to be coming fast enough. But so first up, what they're trying to say is, all right, so you need a gun, you need a permit just to buy a gun in California. You do not need that in most states. The problem is if you go over to Arizona and go into a gun shop and say, oh, I would like this Glock 19. And the gun shop owner reaches into the cabinet, pulls out the Glock 19, hands it to you. You check it out. Yes, sir, I will take that. Excellent. Can I see a form of ID? You pull out your California driver's license. They will say, I'm sorry, I can't sell this to you. You need to ship it to an FFL back in California. And the FFL in California is going to follow all the California requirements. You could
Yeah, that's GCA 68, isn't it?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, there's essentially there's no interstate commerce in handguns. When you buy a gun out of state that's a handgun, it needs to be shipped to your home state, and the actual background check and transfer happens there. You can buy long guns there, but the whole definition, that's the whole 26 inches thing is anything under 26 inches technically could be concealable. So therefore you can't conceal carry a long gun by definition, whether you can or not. That's up to you. But so that the long guns don't apply. And then on top of that, it's one of those, they're not really talking about getting an Arizona non-resident permit, though. Again, that would be another great way to get around these states that want to throw the most amount of competency at may issue, or shall issue, to make it essentially may issue. But either way, what they're talking about is essentially federal crimes. And so therefore, you know what, if you have to go to Arizona and break the federal law to get around the California's law, why don't you just, talk to somebody who's in the criminal world and say, hey, can I buy a gun? And then just carry it illegally. And so scrolling down a little bit further, here's the other part that I wanted to point out is that let's see. Well, they've got law enforcement certainly doesn't want that. That just goes to a whole other document. Let's see. Violent crime rates go up with concealed or with right to carry laws. It brings us to an article from 2017. So this is, knocking on a decade old. And it's John J. Donahue, who is fairly well known in the anti-gun world, is the lead author on this paper. I'm trying to remember if you can download the PDF. I think I might have read it, but I don't really remember exactly what's what the key points of that are. But you can go check that out. And then the last one, Aaron, is the Deregulation of Public Civilian Gun Carrying and Violent Crimes, a longitudinal analysis from 1981 to 2019. So it's a more modern study, Aaron. Can you guess which institute conducted this study?
I'm guessing it's the Bloomberg School of Medicine something.
The Bloomberg School of Public Health, yes. And the lead author is one Daniel W. Webster, who has been a long running companion of Michael Bloomberg and a shill for gun control. So this is again the standard issue. Oh, this is bad because we say it's bad and it's so therefore. But come look at our studies that are bankrolled by the same groups. So it is recursive logic, and the whole reason why so many states have constitutional carry now is because it works. It's fine. Especially in recent years, I remember the last time I renewed my Maine permit, and this was back during the Obama administration, because Maine's gone constitutional carry as well. So I've let it lapse. It's one more thing for me to worry about. The wait times were huge, and it's Maine. They're not screwing around with you. It's just there's a lot of people who want permits, and there's only so many people we've got in the office to process them. And so by going to constitutional carry, it lowers the burden down to just the people that really, really want to have the permit. And then on top of that, the violent crime is not going up. In fact, in many instances, is going down. So that's the reason why it's been so successful. And the gun control people don't like that because the success is their failure.
One thing that I saw, there's a big blue illustration, infographic, whatever. It's got a big 36-point font, 11%. And then below it says, gun homicide increase due to concealed carry. Weak concealed carry permitting laws are associated with 11% higher handgun homicide rates than states with strong permitting systems. And this jumps out at me because it makes me wonder, are those homicides justifiable? Okay, an 11% increase. Gee, are people defending themselves against crime because they're actually able to carry a concealed gun and not be a victim? It doesn't say. Wow, Weer'd. What are the odds of that?
Mm-hmm. Yep, no, likely they are lumping them both together, just like how they will lump in suicide in violent crime numbers. And I mean, I don't know if there's ever been a set definition. I generally, when you hear violent crime, I am thinking one person doing a malicious action to another, and not necessarily somebody doing something to themselves. And that may not be malice. It may just be, suicide's a sad thing. I don't want to dwell too much longer on it because it's a sad thing. I don't like it. But so I don't see suicide as a violent gun violence. But they frequently will do that, just the same way as they will say, oh, there was a shooting at such and such school, and the school needed to be evacuated, and the killer was caught, and one person was killed, no one was killed, who knows, but they'll talk about that, and then they'll say, there's been 700,000 school shootings just this year alone. And if you look at the FBI statistics, there's been like 24 shootings in the last like 30 years. But what they're talking about is, there was a gang shooting in a school. Two gang members go to school together and they decided to shoot it out. Or there was a violent crime outside the school. Or in one instance, I remember seeing an infographic from Everytown talking about all the school shootings in the United States. And there was a big one in Maine. And I went, wait a second, I'm from Maine. How come I've never heard this? And it turned out it was from, my hometown of Portland, Maine. And it was somebody had at 2:00 in the morning driven to the Portland High School parking lot and ended their own life in their car. And that was a school shooting. And so they will talk about a Columbine type incident, and then they'll cite the numbers for this just inflated, nobody's going through. But because they got you thinking about the first thing, they're just going to assume that, they're all the same. So yeah, it's a bait and switch, Aaron.
Well, as you have mentioned many, many times in your audio fisks, unprohibitionists engage in bad faith argument.
They do. Because
if they had a good faith argument, they would use it, and they don't.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and they'd also be much more willing to discuss it. We could have. I absolutely would invite an anti-gun lobbyist, anti-gun activist onto the show. Like, I'd love to just sit down and talk with someone, have a nice, respectful thing. Very similar to the David Hogg Spike Cohen debate, which, if you guys haven't seen, like, it was good. Like, they were really respectful. They did a really, really good job. Both of them were following the debate rules, and it was a really, really good show. I mean, I feel that Spike beat, David, like a rented mule, but it was also, David Hogg was arguing kind of from a different methodology. Spike came with like sheets and sheets and sheets of data, and David Hogg was really going more on the feelings angle. And, that's different strokes for different folks. But either way, a respectful discussion between the thing. It's something that doesn't normally happen anymore. The anti-gunners keep totally to themselves and isolate. All right, we got one last story, and this one's stupid. And so, a former machinist for New Hampshire-based gun manufacturer Sig Sauer is facing federal wire fraud and firearms charges after he allegedly using his employee discount to purchase and then resell guns without a license. And at the heart of it, I totally get that. It's one of those, if you are buying guns at essentially wholesale prices and then turning around and selling them at competitive prices, that is certainly could be argued as engaging in the business of.
He's flipping.
Yep, exactly. He is flipping and all that. And I will say that I own some Sig Sauer stuff that I may have bought as through the employee discount program, and I've never been an employee of Sig Sauer. Just leave it at that. I will say that when I was writing up the show notes, I'm in my jammies now because I'm going to go to bed as soon as we're done recording this. And we've been having some technical difficulties, so it might run a little long. But before that, I was wearing a bunch of LL Bean clothing. Why? Because my father used to work for LL Bean, and he would get the employee discount stuff. And I had a ton of LL Bean clothing from that. And Dad hasn't been working there for like a decade now. But the big thing that got me with this of what's going on is, well, first up, Dad actually had a sign. It was they would fire him if it turned out he was selling employee discounted LL Bean clothing on the secondary market. That is strictly for his personal use and the personal use of his family and friends. You can give the stuff away. They're more than happy with people getting it given to people. But if in fact he was flipping stuff from the LL Bean employee store, that was grounds for termination. And I don't know if Sig Sauer has a similar rule or not. I don't know. But the big thing that got me going from, I almost didn't want to post this because it's one of those like, I kind of got him dead to rights. The indictment includes records for 4 transactions in which Goulet allegedly sold pistols and rifles to customers in Washington, Texas, Tennessee, and Florida, and received payment through Venmo. Maybe that was just those. It doesn't really actually say how many guns sold overall, if that was the total. But the 4 number really got me inflamed, because 4 is the magic number that I am allowed to sell every year in the state of Massachusetts. We have, they call it private sale, but there's nothing private about it. It's all public done, and you need to play Mother May I when go through. And I am not allowed to sell more than 4 of my firearms in any calendar year. And actually the Northeast Shooter Forum, always around December, would always get hot in the selling things, because people would be looking around in December to see, all right, what do I got that I might want to horse trade with, and sell off their guns before January 1st when the 4 gun sales resets. But it doesn't sound like, it certainly doesn't have the fear tag. Selling hundreds of firearms. So I don't know how many guns he sold, if it was a bunch more than the 4, or if the 4 are the ones. But that is a very, very small amount that even if he was making a profit off of them, he's not really engaging in the business of.
True, but the ATF is notoriously humorless about that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yep. No, it is. Yeah, it's bad. And again, be careful out there, people. Like, be like Weer'd and just keep buying more guns and selling none of them. All right, well, let's get us on to the segments. And I'll just say, I have been friends with Tony Simon for a long time. And if you've been listening to this long enough, since it was the Gun Blog Variety Cast days, you've heard him many times. But you know what? He's never been on ACP. It's time to fix that. Well, I don't know exactly how to introduce this guest, because he has been on the Gun Blog Variety Cast, but I believe this is your first appearance on the Assorted Calibers podcast. But longtime friend of the show, Tony Simon. How you doing, Tony?
Hey, man, I'm just happy to be here. What's up?
We haven't talked in a little while, and we had a whole bunch of catching up to do. But yeah, of course, you are the founder of The Second Is For Everyone and the Diversity Shoot, which is absolutely amazing. And why don't you tell our listeners, in case they have not heard of you, what that is?
All right, I'll hit you with the elevator speech. 2015, I started The Second Is For Everyone Diversity Shoots to introduce all people to the Second Amendment, their Second Amendment rights, firearms, 2A groups, and I also wanted to have fun, shoot guns, give out prizes, and make becoming an advocate something you want to do and not bored to death from. So I started that in ranges in New Jersey in 2015. It started at a gun for hire range in Woodland Park, 1 range, and now we're in 4 ranges in Jersey. We sell out each event. We got to cap it at 20 people per event. We sell out each event. I've actually hosted events in Pennsylvania and Nebraska. So we're going strong. It's just I'm doing it as a hobby. This year in June, I started the paperwork to become a 501c3. Sadly, my guy that was doing the paperwork passed away like 3 weeks later after we started it. So we're on pause until I can find another guy and get the paperwork going and everything. But yeah, so over a decade I've been doing this every month, all year long. And It's great. I've met a lot of people being an advocate, and I'm really happy with the work we're doing in a state like New Jersey because we went from having 1,500 carry permit holders to 70,000. And a lot of people have come through our class to touch a gun for the very first time, and now they have carry permits or firearms ID cards and own guns now. And we've introduced them to firearms safely. At the same time, we introduced them to Second Amendment advocacy groups and got them to join. So there's not that long lag between I bought my first gun and I joined Second Amendment advocacy. We've cut that down to you touch your first gun and you met Second Amendment advocates at the same time and organizations in your state you can join. So that's the work we've been doing. And I think we've been doing a great job. We've grown. And because of podcasts like yours, and you've allowed me to be introduced to other people around the country and around the world, and that's really helped us out a lot.
Yeah, no, it is great. And also, I mean, one of the things that I really love and I think is vastly underrated in the Second Amendment community, I often refer to it as the stereotypical gun owner, being, white, Republican, upper middle class, rural person. And Tony, you're none of those people.
Yeah, I know. Weird. And a lot of people in Jersey aren't. A lot of people around the country aren't. And it's like, yeah, let's start appealing to them. And this is the human right. It should be apolitical. There shouldn't be a political party that's the pro-2A party. And truthfully, there isn't. But there shouldn't be one party that has that. We should all make anyone who tries to be anti-gun or use gun, we should make them unemployed. That's what we should do if they're a politician. No, you don't get to step on the human right of self-defense. That's a civil right. It's the second thing we wrote, as the comedian said. But yeah, it is. So no, I don't play with that. I'm the first generation of African American born with the same rights as white Americans, and I'm not giving up any of my civil rights because of someone else's misplaced feelings. I'm not doing that. We people fought for it. I was the first generation to actually have it. And I'm not going to be the generation that gives it away through compromise or reaching across the aisle. And this is all people, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, or any other bullcrap category that people try to fit us into. You all have the right to defend yourself and your loved ones against anyone that's trying to violently impose their will against you, period.
Hence the name, The Second Is for Everyone, of which I cite frequently. It is for everyone. Everyone deserves it, and that is awesome. So, how many people are at one of your diversity shoots?
Well, we limited 20 people because we get the range to donate 5 lanes, so that allows people to come in and shoot for like 15 to 20 minutes and rotate out because we go from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And we also, I have my time where we actually talk to people about advocacy, answer their questions, introduce, again, CNJFO, Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners, or the organization that works with me on a daily, weekly basis. So they're at every one of our events, and I introduce people to them. And so we get shooting done. So it's about 20 per, sometimes a little bit over. 20 people per. Like somebody says, hey man, I bought the last ticket, but I'd like to bring my nephew and his sister, or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, sure, bring them. I mean, what's 22 compared to 20? I'll order more pizza. I mean, that's what it really turns into. And I had to start limiting it because we actually got so popular that it was like 40 or 50 people and people got like 10 minutes to shoot and it kind of sucked. So we had to actually limit it.
That is awesome. Yeah. What type of guns? What type of instruction is there?
All right. So it's introducing people to firearms that have never been introduced, or guys who already have shot tons of guns. All right, come into port. Hey, you ever shoot, a Walther PDP? No. How about what some of my guys got? What's this? CZ Checkmate? It's like a $3,000 pistol. One of my guys have that. They have higher end guns. They have regular Glocks. They got 1911s all along, all along the firearms owning trail. We had one guy that used to bring things like, the Largo Alien. That was the first time I shot that. He had Largo Alien when it was one of 500 and they were like $7,000. He brought one of those to the event. When I was in Pennsylvania, they had a great incident where the guy accidentally bought Thompson submachine guns. He bought 8 of them for 15 grand from a prop company from 1946. It was like, yeah, these have been used in movies since 1946. He figured, hey, I'll buy these and we can, demill them or remill them or whatever, get them back to functioning firearms, probably by purchasing a new barrel. No, well, in the old days, the way you did it was just put a rod down the barrel that was threaded and turn it. So he stuck the screwdriver in, turned it the other way, it fell out, and he was like, all right, we have 8 of these now. And he was like, hey, Tony, great news. At the next diversity shoot, you can shoot a Thompson. So we got to run a Thompson. We got to run an HK MP5. And we also ran the FRT triggers. And we actually ran the FRT triggers against the Thompson to see which had a higher rate of fire.
I bet it was the FRT.
Yeah, Thompson got smoked.
They got a real slow cyclic rate.
Yeah, we shoot a lot of different firearms. We've been blessed. We don't shoot the FRT in Jersey because it makes range Nazis nervous, and they want to call the authorities.
Yep.
But outside of that, we have a lot of fun. And again, it's everything. I try to hook up with companies to send us firearms because I'm like, hey, when you send your stuff to a YouTuber does a video and then sells it on, Gunbroker like 2 weeks later. What's your return on investment of that just because people watch the video? I'm like, you send your firearm to us. We have over 400 people a year that are going to pull the trigger on it. They'll see it. They may buy it. We sold, the Smith & Wesson MMP2 comp carry.
Mm-hmm.
We had that at Weer'd in Lakewood, New Jersey, and it just came out. We sold 3 of them by the end of the night because people were shooting it and liked it so much they actually inquired and actually purchased them there and had to get their paperwork and everything, of course, because it's Jersey. But yep, they put their money down on it.
Oh yeah,
so
that's standard for gun things. It's like especially those first shoots. I've got one of the first pistols I ever shot was in 1911. Literally the first rifle I ever shot was a Remington Nylon 66, and I have one in the safe now because it was one of those like, all right, I need to get one of those for that exact reason.
Yep, you shoot it, you buy it. Sorry, but it's almost like test driving a car, man. That first car you jump into, if you really like it, you ended up buying it. So we have a good time. I crack jokes. I talk about everything and everybody. No one's safe. I open up the event going, hey, listen, if you grew up and you like all married with children and all in the family and South Park, this is going to be a fun night for you. If you're offended by any of that, yeah, we'll just skip to the shooting part for you. If you're not going to like anything I have to say. And we just have fun. And it's like, there's no sacred cows. I will goof on you regardless of who you are because I'm there because I care about you as a human being. I think you have the right to exist, but you don't have the right not to get your balls busted by me. And we have a great shoot. Last event, we had a kid from Bangladesh and we had another guy from Pakistan, and they were in the same friend group. And they started making jokes, and I started making jokes, and then we tried to shoot what do you call that thing at the end? A testimonial.
Yep.
We tried to, bro. It was painfully laughing for 10 minutes every time we tried to get a new take, and we finally got 1 minute and 5 seconds that we could actually air, and I'll be putting that up shortly. And it was great. It was fun. And then I have the outtakes that I'll probably put as a separate post because you can't believe what we were doing. It was hilarious because it was just us being us, and I allow people to be themselves. I don't allow hatred or racism because that's stupid, but we make fun of stuff and that's fine.
And so whereabouts in New Jersey? Is it any one particular area or all over the state?
Oh, we're all over the state. We are at Gun for Hire Range in Woodland Park. We'll be there December 18th. We're at Recoil Range in Monroe, New Jersey. We're at Union Hill Gun Club, also in Monroe, but on another side of town, so it's like easier to get to one or the other. And we're also at Weer'd in Lakewood, New Jersey. And we'll be there again November 20th, which is coming up, and we've already sold half the tickets, and they've only been on sale 2 days.
And where do people go to get the tickets?
You can go to diversityshoot.com and there will be an Eventbrite link there that you can click on and it'll take you to the ticket page. So by the time everybody gets there, I'll have all of the events for the rest of the year up, which we have 3 more events, and you can click on them and come out and visit us and have fun and shoot some guns and eat pizza for all the low price of $20.
And also you can click on your listening device and go to wherever you're streaming this from and scroll down onto the show notes, and there'll be a link to that in the show notes. And where else can people find you, Tony?
Oh, good Lord. Okay, so you can find me on Firearms Radio Network, Gun and Gear Review Podcast. I'm on every Tuesday, where I carry the show because of my awesomeness and my extensive knowledge of firearms. No, but we have a great time on that show, busting each other's chops. And if there's a theme here with me, if you've not noticed. And we have fun talking about firearms and reviewing gear. We have different companies on and we talk about, what products they have out and that kind of thing. But we do not shill, and we're so anti-shill. It's amazing. What else? I'm on Gun Websites podcast, Q&A podcast on YouTube. So visit Gun Websites. I'm usually there every Saturday. And I also have the Second is for Everyone podcast, or 2A4E podcast. I'm on Spotify and all your podcast places. We're up to episode 99 now. And I've been doing it for a while. I have a pause because I had some technical issues, but I will be back because we did a lot of a lot of recordings at NRA with some heavy hitters, and it was pretty interesting, and I can't wait to share it with everybody.
Well, that is awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Tony Simon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Love it. We've waited too long.
Man, I love Tony.
Oh, Tony's great.
And I'll just say also, like, everyone's welcome here, big tent approach. I think that's great. Obviously, there's certainly some issues of conservative people excluding people of the left of center group that's been going on forever, and saying, oh, if you're a Democrat or if you're left of center, you must be for gun control, and that's not fair. But also we were talking about there might be some certain left-wing 2A groups that might be more than a little exclusionary. And if you guys are listening to this and you think that applies to you, maybe think about opening things up a little bit. Because, to quote Ben Franklin, we must hang together or we will all hang separately.
Yeah, I have lost track of the number of times I have been told, not asked, not suggested, but told that pink pistols must, and to a lesser extent Blazing Sword, but mostly pink pistols, must be queer only. And I've told them, no, it is for everyone. The only reason we kick someone out is if they are being disruptive and making people uncomfortable or saying certain things, but we aren't going to discriminate against someone for their sexuality just for the same reason we aren't going to discriminate against someone for their politics, unless, of course, they're anti-Second Amendment, in which case, why are you here? Or for, all the usual stuff of age, race, gender, that sort of thing. And it makes me sigh. I do the deep sigh and some people's kids, man, because there are lots of folks who want to make things exclusionary. And if the Second Amendment is for everyone, then you can't be excluding people from it. Now, can you?
Yeah. And may I add, for anybody listening to the sound of my voice, all these, we're pointing out what garbage statistics Giffords is posting to justify what they're doing. Just get into any sort of honest look at statistics, any FBI crime numbers, and overall we're on the right side of it. And we've also got the constitutional behind us, and we're still losing ground from time to time. It's not all victories for us. This is not an easy fight, and the more people we can add to it, it doesn't matter who they are or what they're siding with. It's the more people we can have fighting for this. And hopefully someday we'll have some pro Second Amendment Democrats in a national office. That'd be great. Because again, there's nothing partisan about the Second Amendment.
This is one of those times where I want to quibble, where I say there should be nothing partisan about the Second Amendment. But unfortunately, the American people have made it so.
Yes, there is nothing. So you are 100% correct, Aaron. And so I will adjust to your quibble in the fact that when I say there is nothing partisan about the Second Amendment, there is nothing partisan about the text in the Bill of Rights about
Correct.
The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. There's nothing about that. And I can make just as many left-wing arguments for the right to keep and bear arms as you can make right-wing arguments. The difference is that, yes, the political parties have chosen sides, and it's stupid.
But you know what isn't stupid, Weer'd?
Are we going to be talking about training?
Yes, we are. In fact, David is here to tell us about how to train people on guns without using guns.
Hi, and welcome to Gun Lovers and Other Strangers. As I've mentioned previously, I'm a firearms instructor. Over the years, I've taught many people a variety of different skills. One of the most rewarding training experiences is when I can help a new or nervous shooter overcome their fear or trauma. So in this segment, I'd like to talk about low-pressure firearm training. I'm sure all our listeners have seen a movie or TV show with the hard-as-nails drill sergeant barking orders at the new soldiers on the range. While this may work in certain circumstances, it's generally not the way to get the best out of uncomfortable students in a private training environment. Over the years, I've dealt with a number of people who had an extreme stress reaction when it came to shooting, or in some cases, even holding an actual firearm. Several years ago, I had a female student whose child attended Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School on that fateful day. While their child wasn't injured in the cowardly attack, the entire family was understandably traumatized. We eventually got to the point where Mom could hold and even fire a .22 pistol, but after all her efforts, decided not to pursue further training at that time. While she was grateful for my assistance, she just wasn't ready yet. More recently, I had a young female student who'd left an abusive marriage earlier this year. Part of her psychological trauma from that experience involved firearms. However, she was determined to learn how to use a gun to defend herself. After all, a restraining order is just a piece of paper. At the beginning of our first lesson, even handling the pistol made her uncomfortable. Holding it in a firing grip loaded with a single round caused a high-stress reaction. Thankfully, and due entirely to a comment made by my wife, I had brought the Mantis TitanX I'd been sent for testing and evaluation. Its lighter weight, bright colors, and general not-a-gun impression made it much easier on my student. I'd also brought my tablet, and we used the Mantis X app to work on stance, grip, sights, and trigger. Since the TitanX has no recoil or muzzle blast, I was able to show her immediate feedback without the added stress of a live gun. This eased her comfort level to the point that by the end of our 2-hour lesson, not only was she able to hold the loaded gun, she was repeatedly shooting 3-round strings with little to no flinch, and bought more ammunition after shooting all she'd brought with her, making this one of the most rewarding training experiences I've had. In both these examples, I repeatedly stressed to my students that this was their time and we'd only do exercises and drills they were comfortable with. At any point during the lesson, they could call a stop to the proceedings and we'd take a break. For example, in the more recent private lesson I mentioned, we spent some time talking about her dog and my cats until she was ready to proceed. A soft voice, which can be challenging on a live range, is an essential part of this process. Yelling is often perceived as aggression, especially by someone who's been victimized. Word choice is also important. A little encouragement can go a long way. Saying things like, "that's fine" and "you're doing great" help build confidence and increase calm. Phrasing corrections as, "that was good, but let's try," some adjustment to stance, grip, etc., helps avoid triggering a defensive reaction. Another element of this type of training is letting the student know it may be necessary to touch them during the shooting portion for their safety and getting their approval. I then make sure I keep that contact to a minimum. I'll often use just a single fingertip pressing on their back, shoulder, or arm, for example, to direct adjustments. Obviously, in any circumstances calling for it, I would still grab their arm or hand to stop a dangerous situation, but an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Whenever possible, I try to run through any hands-on operations and exercises myself while explaining the steps before having the student attempt them. This both increases understanding and demonstrates that it's safe for them to do. If it had been feasible, I would have had my wife accompany me to these training sessions. Having another woman present is often calming to female students with firearm-related trauma. For any male trainers listening who have female students with the firearm-related trauma I've mentioned, if you're not already, try following the suggestions in this segment. If for whatever reason things still don't click, refer them to a qualified female instructor like Kerry Stone at We the Female. Don't take this as a personal failing. Some students need more specialized help than many instructors are capable of offering. Be kind, be courteous, be safe.
I am here with none other than Carrie Sloan from We the Female. If you don't follow her on social media, it's stilettos and shotguns. You guys really should be following.
That about wraps up this segment. If you have any questions for me or suggestions for future segments or a comment on a past segment, please post them on the Assorted Calibers Podcast Facebook or MeWe pages, and Aaron or Weer'd will make sure I see them. I'm also a contributor on the Blue Collar Prepping blog, which can be found at bluecollarprepping.blogspot.com. Finally, I'm a published author, and books with my stories can be found on Amazon under the names Brena Bock and David Bock. That's all for now. Thanks for listening. I'm David, and this is Gun Lovers and Other Strangers.
Yeah, non-guns are ideal for training and teaching the basics, especially with an inexperienced shooter or, as David mentioned, someone who may have some stigmas towards guns. Because if someone ends up pointing a blue gun at you or pointing a blue gun at themselves or holding the gun in the wrong way and all that, it's inert. It's not going to hurt anybody. Versus the, I don't know, Aaron, if you've ever had to do this, but I've actually had to do it a couple of times, of the person brings the gun up to fire it and you realize their thumbs are crossed behind the slide.
That's my mother.
Oh, yep. And it's just okay, I don't want to startle them. Like just time slows down to just a heartbeat of okay, I don't want to yell no, stop, and startle them, and they might squeeze off around, and that slide's going to run a railroad track on their thumb. But also I don't want to waste any time because they're getting ready to shoot, and as soon as they shoot, we're going to be going from a good range session to a very unpleasant range session.
Yeah. So my mother, she's 86 years old, and so she was taught to shoot using revolvers. And I guess at the time, they were taught to cross their thumbs when holding a revolver. Not really sure why. And it worked for her then, but when she goes to use a semi-auto, she keeps doing that. Now, fortunately for Mom, I mean, in this instance, it's fortunate that she doesn't have a lot of confidence because she will look at me to make sure she's doing right before she starts firing. And I will say, don't cross your thumbs. You're going to hurt yourself. And then usually what happens is that I then have to take, I don't like pry the gun from her, but I take the gun and I show her this is how you're supposed to hold it because just words aren't working. I have to model how to hold it. And she goes, oh, right. Okay. So, yeah, she scared me like that more than a few times.
Yep. And so, yeah, luckily I have never had an instance where somebody that I've taken to the range who wants some introductory teachings and all that, where any blood has been shed, which is awesome. I can't say the same for me because I have definitely bled on the range on more than a few occasions. But yeah,
I mean, did you stab yourself?
Couple of different things. I mean, I had the The one that it wasn't bad bleeding, but it was the most scary was I did have a head separation where the primer flew out of the primer pocket and hit me in the forehead.
Well, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah, but most of the time it's slide closing on something, like you're trying to clear a 3-point jam and it clears just as your finger's in there and you get slide bite.
Mm.
But good to not have the new shooters get hurt. Let the people who already are committed to it, let them shed the blood.
Mm-hmm. But as David pointed out, consent when teaching is very important. And I think you have a story about that, or am I thinking of someone else?
I don't have a direct story about it, but and actually maybe this is actually something interesting to ask you, because I've realized as I was thinking about this, listening to David's segment, that I happen to be like a regular listener to the Savage Lovecast, and there's been a few other sex advice podcasts that have come and go through my through my rotation, and some various films that I have watched where consent is taught very, very well for adults engaging in romantic interludes, but I don't think it's talked about nearly as much in just a day-to-day non-romantic interactions.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, they're related thoughts. First of all, I'm going to take this opportunity to plug the book of a friend of mine. His name is Jay Peterson. You may have seen him on Facebook. He's a great guy. He is a retired Marine, and he does a lot of work in the film industry. He's played some monsters, and he's got a couple of books out. The first one is called Renfield Blues. It's not like he's ripping off MHI or whatever, but if you like MHI, you're going to like his book. And the reason I bring it up is, while it's been said that Larry Correia writes gun porn, Jay writes consent porn. And consent features so super heavily in the plot of the first book that if you're into consent and into guns and into monsters, I think you'll really enjoy it. I'm going to drop an Amazon link to his book. He's actually got a second book out now, so check that out. The other thing that I want to point out, not about consent, but about the utility of a non-gun trainer. A couple of years ago, you've probably forgotten this point, but I told the story of the amazing newbie at the Liberal Gun Club meeting in Vegas, and the way that we got her interested. She was curious to begin with, and you can listen to the whole story. But what we did was, one of the people there, I think his name was Mark, he had, I don't know if it was the Mantis, but it was definitely a laser trainer that he had set up with a laptop, a tablet, whatever. And he was teaching her how to use it. And it was fun for her because she didn't have to worry about the noise, about the recoil, about the gunpowder getting on her clothes. And it was a chill, low pressure environment inside the clubhouse. And I don't know if we could have got her shooting regular guns without first using the trainer. But by the time she had finished with the trainer, she was hooked. And before the day was done, she was shooting basically every gun they could give her. Like, yeah, let me try that. So these things absolutely work, and they are great introductions to firearms for people who aren't sure if firearms are for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And actually, you reminded me of something that I forgot to mention about the Tony Simon, but it ties in very, very nicely. Is Tony makes a great point on the, hey, if you want to be a sponsor, if you're a gun manufacturer, you can send a gun to a gun writer or a YouTuber or all that, and they'll make one article or one video on it and maybe send it back or something like that, and then people are gonna go, oh, does that solve any problems that I have with my current gun collection? Do I need that new gun? If you get guns to places where people are going to be taking their first shot, you are almost guaranteed a sale, because I think we all have that, baby duckling like impression on some of the first guns we ever shot. One of the first handguns I ever shot, the first centerfire handgun I ever shot was a Colt 1911 A1. And go figure. I carry a 1911 now. And one of the first guns I actually shot was a Remington Nylon 66. And I have finally tracked one down and own one now, because it's one of those, like, I want it. I need to have that first one that I shot.
Well, Weer'd, what else do we need?
What we absolutely need is people to listen to us, because otherwise this is just strange. So yes, our listeners, we need to thank you guys, because you're listening to this, and I am thanking you, because again, you keep this from being just Aaron and me talking about news articles to nobody. That's creepy. That's super creepy. But an extra special thanks to our creepy people on Patreon. Are you creepy? I don't know. Some of you are creepy. We really appreciate our Patreon members, because they're the ones that help keep the lights on. If you're interested in supporting the show, you can go to patreon.com/Assorted Calibers podcast and sign up. It's not a tip jar or begging. It's a store. You can buy things like we got the ACP blooper reels. You can get an early release of the podcast, the ACP film tracks, or the ACP mag dump.
Also, please remember to rate us on Apple Podcasts and Pocket Casts, subscribe to us on the platform of your choice, and share the show with your friends, both online and off.
I've got a blog. It's called WeerdWorld.com. That's WeerdWorld.com. And you can hear me weekly on Handgun Radio on the Firearms Radio Network.
And you can get more from me at Linktree/Aaron Paulette. That's linktree.ee/Aaron Paulette. All one word.
And thanks to Nate Spencer for our music.
I've got a good girl. Her name is Tilly. And I've also got a bad boy. His name is Weer'd. Their behavior is assorted. And so is our podcast. Good night, everyone.
Guilty as charged. Good night.